How Greed Killed Celsius. The 12-year sentence nobody saw coming. They called it the future of banking. A place where your money worked for you, not against you. But on a cold morning in New York, Alex Mashinsky, once hailed as a crypto messiah, was sentenced to 12 years in prison. What happened to Celsius isn't just a story about crypto. It's a story about greed, deception, and how millions lost their savings chasing a dream that was never real. Welcome to the Company Autopsy. Today, we dissect Celsius, the death of a dream. It started with 3 words that felt revolutionary. Unbank yourself. The year was 2017. New York City was pulsing with crypto fever. In cafes across Brooklyn and trading floors in Manhattan, everyone was talking about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a new kind of financial freedom. And right in the center of it all stood Alex Mashinsky, a confident entrepreneur with a thick New York accent and an even thicker sense of purpose. He wasn't some anonymous coder. He was the man who helped invent voice over internet protocol, the same technology behind Skype. Now he wanted to do it again, but this time with money. In June 2018, inside a rented office on Park Avenue South, Mashinsky introduced Celsius Network, a bold idea that promised to do what banks never would. Earn up to 17% interest on your savings. Borrow instantly. No middlemen. No hidden fees. Celsius wasn't just a company, it was a movement. Its message appeared everywhere: Twitter, Telegram, YouTube, even in New York subways. Banks are not your friends. And people believed it. From college students in Texas, to retirees in London, to single parents in Toronto. Everyone wanted to be part of this new financial revolution. At first, it felt like magic. Deposits grew every week. People checked their apps every Monday and saw their balance increase, without lifting a finger. There were stories that warmed the heart. A teacher from Kansas City using her Celsius earnings to pay medical bills. A young man in Berlin finally able to buy his first car. Mashinsky's charisma made it all feel real. On stage at the Bitcoin 2021 conference in Miami, he said with conviction, "We act in your best interest. Always." The crowd roared. For a moment, it felt like he wasn't just selling crypto, he was selling hope. But even as the dream grew, small cracks began to form. Behind the glossy branding and friendly AMAs, Celsius wasn't printing money, it was borrowing time. To pay those sky-high returns, they were lending customers funds to risky hedge funds and trading desks. The details were hidden in fine print, ignored by most, trusted by many. Yet the results spoke louder. The numbers kept climbing, so no one asked questions. Then came May 2021. Bitcoin crashed nearly 50% in days. The market shook. Platforms froze. But Celsius held strong. Withdrawals worked. Interest payments continued. Mashinsky appeared live on YouTube, calm and smiling. "We're not like the others. We're built for moments like this." For his followers, it was proof that Celsius could survive anything. It was the company's first great test, and it passed. Faith became devotion. But in the shadows, something else was happening. Internal transfers. Hidden losses. Quiet loans to failing partners. By the end of 2021, Celsius wasn't the unstoppable revolution it claimed to be. It was a fragile web, holding billions it couldn't afford to lose. Still, Mashinsky pressed forward. In Las Vegas, he told a roaring crowd that Celsius had paid over $1 billion in rewards. He wore the same black t-shirt. "Banks are not your friends." The audience cheered. Cameras flashed. And no one realized, the countdown had already begun. For millions around the world, Celsius wasn't just a crypto app. It was trust. It was hope. It was the dream that maybe this time, the little guy could win. But dreams built on borrowed money don't last forever. And soon, the same people who cheered its rise would watch everything they believed in disappear. Because every revolution has its reckoning. And Celsius was about to meet its own. By late 2021, Celsius looked unstoppable. Billions in assets. Millions of users. But behind the glass walls of their Hoboken, New Jersey headquarters, something wasn't adding up. They promised 18% interest when even the safest banks struggled to offer one. And they swore every dollar was safely managed. But in truth, Celsius wasn't earning, it was gambling. Inside their digital vaults, customer funds were being lent out to risky hedge funds and decentralized finance projects. Names like Anchor Protocol, Luna, and Three Arrows Capital. Each one promised high returns, until they didn't. In January 2022, whispers began surfacing online. A few Reddit users noticed strange withdrawal delays. Others complained their stable rewards had quietly dropped overnight. Still, Mashinsky appeared weekly on live streams from his Manhattan apartment, calm, reassuring, confident. "Celsius has never lost a penny of your money," he said. And people believed him, because the alternative was too terrifying to imagine. Then came the first tremor. May 7th, 2022. The collapse of Terra USD and Luna wiped out nearly $40 billion in market value in 1 week. Most crypto firms froze in panic. But Celsius? They tweeted that withdrawals were fine, that everything was business as usual. Inside the company's Slack channels, though, panic was spreading. Engineers scrambled to rebalance wallets. Risk officers issued quiet warnings. And in the background, Mashinsky, ever the optimist, rejected advice to pull back. He reportedly said, "The market will recover. It always does. But it didn't recover. By June 2022, Bitcoin had fallen below $25,000, Ethereum under $1,200. Celsius had lent billions into projects that were now worthless. And yet, on camera, they kept smiling, promising stability while the foundation crumbled beneath them. Employees began noticing something strange. Transfers between Celsius wallets late at night, millions moving in silence. Some insiders whispered that they were using new deposits to cover old losses. If true, it wasn't innovation anymore. It was desperation. On June 12, 2022, just after midnight, Celsius posted a short message on Twitter. Due to extreme market conditions, we are pausing all withdrawals and transfers between accounts. No explanation. No timeline. Just silence. Within hours, panic exploded across Telegram and Reddit. Users begged for answers, some pleading for life savings to be returned. Others posted screenshots, balances frozen, withdrawals pending. The dream was over. By sunrise, news stations across London, Toronto, and New York carried the same headline. Celsius halts all withdrawals. Billions were locked away. Families wiped out. Retirements gone. Mashinsky disappeared from public view for days. When he reappeared, his voice was calm, but his eyes told a different story. The man who promised freedom had built a cage. For many, it was more than a financial loss. It was betrayal. Because Celsius wasn't supposed to fail. It was supposed to be different. But behind every smiling promise was a truth no one wanted to face. There's no such thing as risk-free wealth. And when you build dreams on borrowed trust, eventually the cracks show. And when they do, they don't whisper. They scream. June 12, 2022. The day the Celsius dream officially died. At 12:11 a.m. Eastern Time, a single tweet went live. Due to extreme market conditions, we are pausing all withdrawals and transfers. 16 words. That's all it took to erase the faith of 1.7 million users. Billions of dollars, gone in a blink. Within hours, panic rippled through the crypto world. On Reddit, thousands flooded the Celsius subreddit. Post after post appeared. My life savings are gone. One man in Toronto wrote, I just wanted to pay off my student loans. Another in Manchester said, my kid's college fund was in Celsius. Discord servers turned into digital wake rooms, grief, anger, disbelief. And as the world watched, the truth began to leak. Underscore. Music drops, subtle silence, like a heartbeat stopping. Narrator, lower tone. Behind the scenes, Celsius executives were not panicking. They were planning. Internal blockchain data later revealed that top executives quietly withdrew millions just days before the freeze. While ordinary users begged for access to their funds, insiders protected themselves. One transaction, $10 million, traced back to Mashinsky's personal wallet. He denied wrongdoing, but for many, the damage was done. Trust was shattered. Inside Celsius's offices in Hoboken, staff were ordered to stay silent. Employees described the mood as apocalyptic. Emails went unanswered, Slack channels went dark, and customer support was locked down. Mashinsky, once a confident leader, spent those nights calling investors, desperately searching for rescue funds. He reached out to everyone, venture firms in Silicon Valley, crypto billionaires in Dubai, even Wall Street veterans. But the message was the same. No one wanted to save a sinking ship. Then the curtain fell. July 13, 2022, Celsius network files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in the Southern District of New York. The numbers were staggering. Over $4.7 billion owed to users. Barely $167 million in liquid assets. Court documents showed entire portfolios evaporated. Reckless lending, market exposure, and false assurances had bled the company dry. Celsius was no longer the future of finance. For millions of users, it wasn't just about losing money. It was about losing trust in a system that promised fairness, transparency, and freedom. Videos appeared online. Gray-haired retirees sitting in their kitchens, reading Celsius emails aloud. Young professionals staring at blank screens, realizing they couldn't pay rent. This wasn't just a market crash. It was a collective heart. Mashinsky tried to reassure the public, claiming Celsius would rebuild. But as investigations unfolded, the reality grew darker. Internal memos revealed that Celsius had been insolvent since 2021. For months, they used new customer deposits to pay old ones, the very definition of a financial mirage. The same platform that once told people to unbank themselves had become a digital bank run, without the safety nets. In a single summer, Celsius went from a $25 billion success story to a courtroom tragedy, one that echoed through New York's Southern District like a warning shot to an entire industry. And as the markets cooled, one truth became undeniable. Celsius didn't collapse because of a bad market. It collapsed because of arrogance. Because no one wanted to believe the dream could end. The company that promised freedom had trapped its own believers. And the man who told them to trust him was already walking toward his reckoning. October 3, 2024, Southern District Court, Manhattan. The wooden benches creaked as the judge entered. Reporters filled the back rows. Investors, some hopeful, some broken, waited for the final chapter of a story that had stolen so much. At the front stood Alex Mashinsky, founder and former CEO of Celsius. Once hailed as a visionary, now wearing a plain gray suit and a look of quiet defeat. For nearly 2 years, prosecutors had built their case, tracing transactions, interviewing employees, uncovering the truth Celsius had buried beneath promises of freedom. Emails showed deception. Messages revealed panic. And in the end, it all came down to greed disguised as innovation. When the judge finally spoke, the words cut through the silence like a blade. Alex Mashinsky, for your role in defrauding investors of over $4 billion. This court sentences you to 12 years in federal prison. He didn't move. No tears. No outburst. Just a man standing still, surrounded by the echoes of a dream he built and destroyed. Behind him, one former investor whispered, 12 years isn't enough. Another simply closed her eyes and sighed. Because for them, this wasn't justice. It was déjà vu, another story of power, deception, and the cost of misplaced trust. Across New York, Toronto, London, and San Francisco, the ripple of that verdict hit like a delayed aftershock. Families who had lost everything finally had an answer, but not a solution. One man in Houston had to sell his home. A mother in Birmingham went back to working night shifts after losing her child's tuition. And thousands of others simply gave up on finance altogether. Because when a system built on trust collapses, it doesn't just take your money, it takes your faith. Mashinsky's lawyers promised an appeal. Crypto advocates debated whether his conviction was fair. But beyond the legal noise, something far more important emerged. A reckoning. People began asking harder questions. Who can we trust? What do we value more, returns or responsibility? And can technology ever replace integrity? As Mashinsky was led away in handcuffs, the same words he once used echoed back like irony carved in stone. We're here to unbank the world. He succeeded, but not in the way he imagined. He unbanked millions from their futures, from their savings, from their belief that the next revolution would finally be different. And maybe that's the real sentence. Not 12 years in a cell, but a lifetime knowing the freedom he promised. Became the prison that defined him. Celsius wasn't just a company. It was a mirror, reflecting everything fragile about human ambition. It began with hope. It ended with hubris. Because when a platform promises 18% returns in a market that bleeds red, it's not innovation, it's illusion. And behind every illusion, there's always someone who believes they've outsmarted risk, until the curtain falls. The fall of Celsius wasn't about crypto alone. It was about trust, the oldest currency in the world. A reminder that technology may evolve, blockchains, tokens, algorithms. But human greed remains stubbornly the same. We build systems to protect ourselves from it. And then we break them. For the next generation of investors, this is the takeaway. When something sounds too good to be true, it usually already is. Real success doesn't whisper in hype or tweet in all caps. It grows quietly, backed by transparency, reason, and patience. FOMO, that fear of missing out, has destroyed more fortunes than any market crash ever could. Because in the end, Celsius didn't collapse because of crypto. It collapsed because of people. People who wanted to believe in shortcuts. And one man who mistook loyalty for permission. This wasn't a failure of code. It was a failure of character. So maybe the lesson isn't to stop believing in new systems, but to believe more carefully. Innovation will keep evolving. But it needs one thing more than ever before: integrity. Because the next big collapse won't come from what we build, but from what we ignore while building it. Celsius burned fast and bright, a warning written in billions of lost dollars. And if we don't learn from it, the next one will burn even brighter. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, don't just scroll away. We dive deep into corporate collapses, greed, and the hidden truths the headlines forget to tell. Subscribe to the Company Autopsy, where we don't report stories, we dissect them.